Our Father in heaven, I, Pst Maxwell Nnawuihe, I cover you. Come on, some days around for the day. My faith is in you. I can be the other one. Oh Lord, I call on you today. Come and turn things around. Come and turn things around. Turn things around. Come and turn things around for your children. Jehovah Jireh, turn things around. Yeah, I'm suffering all over Nigeria. That's why I want to welcome every one of you. I want to welcome you to our broadcast today. And I want to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night to you, depending on your time zone. I am Pst Maxwell Nnawuihe. Our focus of broadcast today is displayed on the screen. UN speaks of Nnamdi Kanu's detention. UN speaks of Nnamdi Kanu's detention. The United Nations has spoken, and what they have said about the detention of Nnamdi Kanu should be the focus of Biafran people in different countries of the world. Because what they have said is long awaited, is one interesting aspect of the Biafra restoration project that many people never believed would come. Many people never believed it's going to be possible. Many people never believed that at the end of the day, the United Nations is going to speak in the favor of Biafra restoration, and it is kudos. And I want you to understand that whenever a victory is won, when something is in your favor, more especially this kind of support of the United Nations, you have to run with it. You have to make good use of it. You must not allow it to sleep. You must not allow the enemy to feign ignorance of it. You must, just like when you have given somebody a credit card for withdrawal or to buy anything, you have to make use of it. You must not allow anybody to take it away from you. Biafrans from different countries of the world and from all walks of life, they must be making strong emphasis on the United Nations judgment. When something is given to you and you don't know the value of it, somebody will take it away from you, or you may not even make the most out of it. You may not be able to get something more reasonable and tangible out of it because we are ignorant of it. The Bible says that my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. When you know the value of what is given to you and you know how to apply it or how to utilize it, it becomes to your own advantage and it will help you to advance. Why the Nigerian government has not been able to yield to what the United Nations said about Nnamdi Kanu is because most Biafrans decided to play politics with it, because the support of the United Nations did not come through them. They have been playing politics with it and have been trying to trivialize it because it is not them or it did not come through them. And this is evil. It is abominable and it is condemnable. If actually you are sincere, if actually you are fighting and you are in support of the Biafra restoration, any good result that is achieved, regardless of the source through which it came, you have to appreciate it. Whatever support that's supposed to make the Biafra restoration a reality, you have to embrace it. So long as it is genuine, so long as it is authentic. I'm not talking of the people who are trying to use the name of Biafra as a franchise, trying to use it to extort money from people, trying to use it to achieve or score some political goals. That is not what I'm talking about here. What United Nations judgment said about Nnamdi Kanu is in the favor of every Igbo man that is alive today, even those who died. It is to the advantage of the memories they left behind. And those who are alive, it is to their own advantage. It is something that you must capitalize upon and take it upon yourself to speak about it, to campaign about it, to convert support, to make sure that it is implemented to the letter. It is something that Biafrans must collectively hold. They must collectively hold. They must collectively hold. They must collectively hold the Nigerian government to account. They must collectively hold the Nigerian government to account to make sure that they are pressured and they bow to what the United Nations said. This will be to their own advantage. If you don't do it and you are playing politics with it, you are going to lose at the end of the day. You will be the loser. And the enemy will continue to perpetrate evil to your own disadvantage and that of your entire family. What benefit will that be? The more the enemy is not held to account, the more to all kinds of difficulties and dehumanization. Our lands are not safe. Our regions are not safe because the enemy has been emboldened due to the collective silence of many Biafrans that are supposed to be speaking and making a very strong point with regards to what the United Nations said about Nnamdi Kanu and the Biafra Restoration Project. I am bringing to the screen, I welcome you. This is our enlightenment broadcast. I'm bringing to the screen our enlightenment broadcast and the document from which I am still broadcasting from. And this is very, very getting or becoming more interesting. We are going to continue from the paragraph 15. The paragraph 15, we stopped at the paragraph 15 yesterday, and we're supposed to continue from the point B, which is legal analysis. But let's take from the paragraph 15 that you may understand where we are coming from. And for those that are joining us for the first time, if you are joining us for the first time, this is a broadcast of enlightenment. We are enlightening the world and dear friends what the United Nations has said about Nnamdi Kanu and about the Biafra Restoration Project. This is to the advantage of all Biafrans wherever they are. It is very, very interesting. So from the paragraph 15, and those that are joining for the first time after the broadcast, try and go back to the previous broadcast. We started from the paragraph 1. We started from the paragraph 1. Look at it from the very top. That's where we started from. And we kept on broadcasting, taking it page by page, paragraph by paragraph, point by point. And now we are going to take from the paragraph 15. So permit me, I don't want to start repeating the things we said in the previous broadcast. After the broadcast, you can go back to them so that you can follow up. Let's continue. Let us continue. Legal analysis, that will be after the paragraph 15, and we'll continue from paragraph 16. The source reports that during his detention, the source in this very reference is Bruce Fein, the international attorney of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. Bruce Fein, the international attorney of Nnamdi Kanu, he is the source in this very document referred to as the source. The source reports that during his detention in Abuja, Mr. Kanu has been permitted access to 2 persons on Mondays and Thursdays for 2 hours each session. The source notes that such time limitation is inadequate for Mr. Kanu to be able to prepare a full professional defense. Further, the source explains that his lawyers cannot take notes during their meetings with Mr. Kanu as they are denied pencils and paper. The source adds that on 2nd and 6th September 2021, the Department of Security Services in Abuja denied access to one Mr. Kanu's lawyer or counsels during a meeting aimed at advising him on international laws. This was where we stopped yesterday. Now we continue. Legal analysis. This legal analysis is not coming from me. It's not coming from the lawyers of Nnamdi Kanu. It's not coming from Nnamdi Kanu himself. It is not coming from any other apart from the United Nations, Human Rights, the Working Group, Human Rights on Arbitrary Detention. This legal analysis is being carried out by them because this very document is the official document from the United Nations, Human Rights Council, Working Group on Arbitrary Detention, Human Rights Council, Working Group on Arbitrary Detention. So let's go back to the paragraph. Let's go back to the paragraph. Paragraph 16. Okay? The source first submits that the detention of Mr. Kanu is in solitary confinement is arbitrary and violates Article 9 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and Article 9, Section 1 of the Covenant. Remember that the detention of Nnamdi Kanu was not according to the law. It was against the law. There was no due process, which is supposed to be extradition. You are going to hear it in the course of this enlightenment broadcast from one of these paragraphs that we are going to read today. That is what the source said. Remember, legal analysis. What did the lawyer say? And the Human Rights Council on Arbitrary Detention is now analyzing what Bruce Fein said. Now listen. The source first submits that the detention of Mr. Kanu in solitary confinement is arbitrary and violates Article 9 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and Article 9, Section 1 of the Covenant. This article in reference is the article of the United Nations, not the article of Nigeria, not the article of IPOB. It is not the article of ECOWAS. This is the article of the United Nations on Universal Declaration of Human Rights and Covenants. So they are now making reference and analyzing it in the light of their own document, comparing it with what the source brought to them, the information the source brought to them on behalf of Nnamdi Kanu. So it's important to pay attention. The source notes that as a result of the judge adjourning the case until 19th January 2022, Mr. Kanu has been deprived of liberty for 6 months since June 2021 and held in solitary confinement without a hearing on the merits of the government's allegation and without access to needed medical care. The source submits that this constitutes the very definition of arbitrary detention and violates peremptory norms of international law. Arbitrary detention, by now you understand what it means. Arbitrary, to do without due process, to do something without due process, to do something on impulse, to do something the way you feel, to do something how you look at it, not objectively but subjectively, to do something based on what you want, how you see it, not in the light of the law, relevant laws. So in the course of detention, if detention is arbitrary, it means that the detention was not carried out in the light of the law, relevant law, regarding whatever accusation or allegation that is being made to the person that is being detained. It must follow due process. It should not be arbitrary. So the source was saying that the way that Nnamdi Kanu was brought into Nigeria, and also how the court detained him and adjourned the matter without allowing his lawyers to see him, and without allowing his lawyers, even when they were allowed to see him, to go with biro and paper in order to take notes, to write something that will help Nnamdi Kanu to prepare for defense. They didn't allow biro, they didn't allow pen, no nothing, and all the limitation of the time placed on the time of the visit, which is 2 hours. The source brought all these things together and was explaining that based on the document or the article of the United Nations, their Universal Declaration on Human Rights and Covenant, that these things that are happening, to Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is actually fit into the categorization of arbitrary detention and peremptory norms of international law. Peremptory talks of a kind of precluding due process or not allowing questions, not allowing interrogation, not allowing, to go through due process and maybe in the court, appearance in the court, which takes place when there is extradition because there must be proceedings in the country where they want to, for instance, in Kenya, there's supposed to be extradition, in Kenya before Nnamdi Kanu would be brought back to Nigeria to face trials. But none of these were observed. So that is why it is now classified or defined as arbitrary. Let us take the paragraph 17. Further, the source contends that Mr. Kanu's detention is void of legal basis. Yes. The source submits that the federal government of Nigeria alleges that Mr. Kanu committed the crime of conspiracy to commit a treasonable felony through an agreement with others. Through an agreement with others to be broadcasted from London in view of the establishment of a Biafran sovereignty. The source notes that while Nigerian law defines treason as levying war against Nigeria, the federal government of Nigeria does not allege any action implicating Mr. Kanu in the contemplation, planification, or incitement of war against Nigeria. This is legal analysis. They are now analyzing what Bruce Fein said and in comparison to what the United Nations is saying and also what the Nigerian government is saying about the same person, about this same man, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. So that is it. That the federal government accused him that is planning to levy, to commit treasonable felony through a broadcast from London, which is contrary to Nigeria's definition of treasonable felony or treason. Felon is a person committing treason. So let's take it again. The source notes that while Nigerian law defines treason as levying war against Nigeria, the federal government of Nigeria does not allege any action implicating Mr. Kanu in the contemplation, planification, or incitement of war against Nigeria. So the basis of charging him with treasonable felony is based on radio broadcast, which he made from London, whereas the Nigerian law defines treason as levying war against Nigeria, not broadcast. That is what this paragraph is explaining, the legal analysis. That is what it is explaining. That what the Nigerian constitution, the Nigerian law recognizes or defines as treasonable felony is somebody carrying out, declaring war, carrying out war, and then carrying out war, weapons must be involved. There will be killings and shootings and bombings and all of that. But they were charging him with treasonable felony only based on radio broadcast, contrary to their own law. I hope that is clear. Let us continue. We must continue. That is legal analysis coming from the United Nations. If you are just joining us, I am Pst Maxwell Nnawuihe, and this is one of our enlightenment broadcasts. The caption of this broadcast is United Nations speaks of Nnamdi Kanu, speaks of Nnamdi Kanu's detention. We must continue. The source argues that Mr. Kanu was, in fact, advocating for a peaceful referendum for the establishment of a Biafran sovereignty in conformity with international and other relevant laws. And that is the truth. Paragraph 18. Additionally, the source reports that the federal government of Nigeria charged Mr. Kanu with committing treasonable felony years ago through the broadcast on Radio Biafra and of announcements of the preparation for secession of states in the southeast and south-south zones of Nigeria. The source notes that this charge similarly does not allege that the broadcast contemplated, incited, urged, or encouraged warfare or violence of any type against Nigeria. This is legal analysis. What the law says, what the United Nations says, versus what Nigeria is saying, Nigeria law, Nigerian government, and also what Bruce Fein is saying about one particular man, Nnamdi Kanu. Paragraph 19. The source also notes that Mr. Kanu is accused of defamation for an old broadcast critical of the Major General. The Major General, maybe General Muhammadu Buhari, the former president of Nigeria. The source argues that this falls under Mr. Kanu's free speech and protected opinion guaranteed under the Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and Article 19 of the Covenant. Paragraph 20. The source also observes that Mr. Kanu was accused of illegally importing a radio transmitter wrongly characterized as a used household item over 6 years before he was charged. The source submits that such a trivial charge cannot, by any measure, warrant Mr. Kanu's placement in solitary pre-trial detention without access to necessary medical care for his cardiac condition or access to counsel to prepare for his defense. Paragraph 21. According to the source, let me remind you again, in case you are just joining us, wherever you see or you hear the source in the very document, it is referring to Bruce Fein. That of the United Nations and that of Nigeria. The source also from the government's own misconduct, and that governments should not benefit from their own wrongdoing. So the jurisdiction of the court now, through the government misconduct, the source, Bruce Fein, to Article 14, Section 2B of the Covenant. Moreover, the source contends that the refusal to Mr. Kanu's international counsel into the courtroom on 10th November 2021 violated his right to be represented by counsel of his choosing as guaranteed under the Constitution of Nigeria and various treaties to which Nigeria is signatory. You know, Nigeria signed a lot of treaties. Nigeria is party to different kind of treaties, more especially they signed the International Declaration of Human Rights and Covenants of the United Nations. But when it comes to certain actions affecting the interest of Nigeria, affecting their selfish or their collective selfish interest, they will forget all the treaties that they signed. They will forget that they signed self-determination, and also self-determination is in the Constitution of Nigeria. They would forget that they signed the International Human Rights, of the United Nations. They signed it. They are signatory to it. They will forget all the treaties they have pended their signature upon, and they will start acting arbitrarily to their own interest. The source further submits that the fact that the judge consulted privately with the prosecutors during the 10th November 2021 hearing while Mr. Kanu's counsels were denied entry into the courtroom constitutes a prosecutorial bias. It constitutes a prosecutorial bias. Prosecutorial, talking about the judge, or talking about the prosecuting counsel or the prosecuting team, be it the judge, be it the prosecuting counsel. It is called prosecutorial bias. So in this light, citing what the judge did, it is making a specific reference to the judge for making a consultation privately with the prosecutors, which is the legal team of the Nigerian government, during the 10th November 2022 hearing, while Mr. Kanu's counsels were denied entry into the court, now constitutes prosecutorial bias. In other words, that was a bias action carried out by the judge in the favor of the prosecution counsels or the Nigerian government, contrary to the law. I hope you are following. I hope that you are following. I am still Pst Maxwell Nnawuihe, and this is our enlightenment broadcast. It is our enlightenment broadcast, and the focus is United Nations speaks of Nnamdi Kanu's detention. We must continue. Let's go to the paragraph 23. The source also contends that by placing Mr. Kanu in solitary confinement and denying him necessary medical care to treat his heart condition, the federal government of Nigeria subjected him to torture in violation of the Convention Against Torture. This Convention Against Torture is the Convention of the United Nations. The source concludes that such violation makes Mr. Kanu's detention arbitrary under Article 9 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and Article 9, Section 1 of the Covenant. This Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Nigeria signed it, Nigeria endorsed it, Nigeria is party to it. They have forgotten it because it is about the interest of Nigeria and to the detriment of millions of other people who are the indigenous peoples. Paragraph 24. According to the source, the federal government of Nigeria detained Mr. Kanu in retaliation for his political opinions, contrary to Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and Article 19 of the Covenant. Based on the fourth count of the amended charges, the source alleges that Mr. Kanu is being detained for professing his membership to the indigenous people of Biafra. And that is the truth. Not that he committed any crime, because he said, I am a Biafra. I want Biafra to be restored. I want the people of Biafra, the Igbo people, and other Biafran-speaking ethnic nationalities to have dignity of life, respect of the human right, to enjoy what God has originally given to them, naturally given to them. The freedom of speech, for them to come back to where they used to be as a republic, to be free, to build their own region, to be free, to build their own civilization. That's all. That's why he's being persecuted. Now, let's take paragraph 25. In this regard, it is alleged that the federal government of Nigeria arrested Mr. Kanu on terrorism-related offenses in 2015 and attempted to assassinate him on 10th September 2017 in an army-led attack that killed 5 individuals and wounded 30 others. Let us clarify, as at the time that this document was filed, maybe this particular figure that is mentioned here was not clear. Maybe. I am not saying it is true or it is false. But we know that this is a conservative figure. It is a conservative figure. Look at this 10th of September. I was aware what happened this very date. 10th of September 2017. That was when there was the first shooting at Nnawuihe. They called that place Ishi Gate. Ishi Gate. There was shooting on this very date, 10th of September 2017. After that shooting, on the 14th of the same September, there was what this document is describing here. Army-led attack. It is called Operation Python Dance 2. And at the end of that very Operation Python Dance, about 28 people died and several others were wounded. Okay? We continue. The federal government of Nigeria reportedly listed the indigenous people of Biafra as a terrorist organization during ex parte proceedings, lacking elements of due process. Lacking element of due process. Don't forget it. Including notice and the opportunity to be heard. In other words, they did not even give Nnamdi Kanu the notice to come to court to hear the proceeding before, the IPOB was now designated by themselves, not by international community, not by United Nations, as a terrorist organization, which till today, even this document says it is not true that IPOB is a terrorist organization. So the indigenous people of Biafra was listed as a terrorist organization during ex parte proceedings, lacking element of due process, including notice and the opportunity to be heard, and based on the president's assertions alone. So this ex parte proceeding, through which they now tag IPOB a terrorist organization, this very United Nations is saying that it is lacking elements of due process. There was no due process. Not even any element of due process was followed. They did not give the party the opportunity to be heard. They did not serve the party any notice. It was based on the president's assertion alone. Who was the president that time? General Muhammadu Buhari. based on his own assertion, based on what he said, based on his own feeling, based on how he felt, based on his own perception, or whatever he thought in his mind. And there was people that collaborated with him, the Southeast governors. All of them worked hand in hand and said, oh, today we have declared IPOB a terrorist organization, hurriedly, without any element of due process, according to these United Nations. Okay? Now, we continue. The organization's challenge to the listing is reportedly pending on appeal. Up to now, it is still pending on appeal in Nigeria. But in other countries of the world, IPOB is still carrying out the activities. No country has tagged them terrorist organization. Very, very important to understand it. We must continue. The source also reports that the African Commission on Human and People's Rights and United Nations experts have raised concerns as to the justification and legality of the organization's listing on the terrorist list. Both African Commission on Human and People's Rights and the United Nations experts, look at it here, experts. Let me zoom so that you can see. Okay? The African Commission on Human and People's Rights and United Nations experts. Okay? They have raised concerns. Why did they raise concern? Because this did not follow the due process of law. That's why they decided to raise concern. It is worrisome. They felt so upset, okay, as to the justification and legality of the organization's listing on the terrorist list. Now, let's go to the paragraph 26. Finally, the source alleges that there exists hostility towards Biafrans in Nigeria and that Mr. Kanu's detention is based substantially on his ethnicity as a Biafran. That is why he is being detained, because he is a Biafran. That is the reason for his detention. Not for any other reason, not for any crime that he has committed that is known to law, but for the fact that he is a Biafran. As we speak today, Sunday Igboho has been free for a long time. He was arrested in Benin Republic over the same agitation such as Nnamdi Kanu. He was arrested. Okay? But he was later released on health grounds. And up until now, he's a free man. And we learned that compensations were paid to him. Sunday Igboho is working a free man in the same Nigeria. He is still fighting for the freedom of the Yoruba people, the Oduduwa nation, from Nigeria. And the same thing that Nnamdi Kanu is asking for, he has been held in solitary confinement almost 3 years now. And his heart condition is failing. His heart condition is not good at all. The left ventricle valve of Nnamdi Kanu's heart is leaking blood, and he needs urgent medical attention. This is where we are going to call a wrap. This very broadcast today comes to an end at this point. Remember, this is our enlightenment broadcast, and we will come back to you with responses from the government, which will begin of 27. Responses from the government. The government here is the government of Kenya and Nigeria. In the next episode of our broadcast, we will start from here. Responses from the governments. We have been taking it paragraph by paragraph, page by page. We have just taken the Lego analysis of the United Nations. And the next we're going to take is responses from the governments, beginning from paragraph 27. I am Pst Maxwell Nnawuihe, and I want to thank you for joining us today. And I want to say goodbye from here. See you tomorrow. God bless you.